Hello, my name is Cristian Simonescu from the Faculty of Computer Science Iași, and I'm going to present to you our paper entitled Prehospital Cerebrovascular Accident Detection using Artificial Intelligence-Powered Mobile Devices. Firstly, let us talk about the subject we're trying to address, which is cerebrovascular accidents, also more commonly known as strokes. For those who don't know, strokes are accidents which occur in the brain when the blood supply is either partially or completely interrupted. This leads to a lack of oxygen and nutrients reaching brain cells. This is very, very serious since brain cells start to die very quickly. As such, access to treatment as fast as possible is very important in order to save as much part of as many cells as possible, preventing death and other disabilities. So some stats regarding strokes. 15 million people suffer from strokes annually. A third of those people sadly die. Another third of them still remain with some sort of disability from the rest of their lives, so usually paralysis. And a fact about it is that it's the second largest cause of death worldwide. So the importance of working on it is great. And also, an important factor is that your chance of survival and having a successful recovery is directly tied to how quickly you were able to receive treatment. As such, this is the area we're trying to address, the speed of which you can identify symptoms and contact emergency services. So to do this, we modeled our application around the F.A.S.T test, which is widely known and used. This test was developed by specialists to be used in information campaigns for the general public. Since it doesn't require the special training, it can be easily be administered by anyone without special medical training. It's fast. It covers the most common symptoms of strokes. So these steps are the following. Face drooping is identifying if the person you are suspicious of having a stroke is able to lift both sides of their face up, or if they're having difficulty moving it or suffering from drooping. Arm weakness is the inability to use both of your arms completely. So if you're suddenly feeling that one of your arms isn't performing as the other, that might be a sign of arm weakness. Or if you are losing dexterity in your fingers, the next component is speech difficulties. People who suffer from strokes usually have a difficulty speaking. This can either be complete lack of, they aren't able to utter sentences entirely, or they might slur their words, and this can be a sign of strokes. The T from the F.A.S.T test is a call to action, is time to call the emergency services, since speed of treatment is very important. So to address this problem using the F.A.S.T test, we developed the Stroke Help application, which is a mobile Android application. The objective of these applications are the following. Firstly is to raise awareness for this problem. This is important from two factors. Firstly is to actually inform people of the symptoms of it so they can recognize it, either in themselves when they're suffering from it or when they see someone else with the symptoms. But even if, let's say, you are aware something is wrong, even with yourself, let's say, you might not realize the severity of the situation. For example, I might realize that, hey, one of my arms isn't working properly. I lost strength in it and dexterity, but I might not realize the severity of it, and I might simply postpone getting treatment till the next day. I'll go check up at my doctor the next day. But the reality of the situation is that I need to call the emergency services as fast as possible, and in a span of a few hours, I need to be receiving treatment. For this, we developed a guided F.A.S.T test in order for you to practice the steps of the F.A.S.T test or administer it to someone else. And let's say interestingly, is we also developed a self test, which uses artificial intelligence and common sensors found on your phone, on modern mobile phones, such as cameras, the microphone, and gyroscopes in order to identify signs of stroke. And we use the JAS score, which is also widely used JAS score to classify probability of strokes in hospitals in order to classify the chances you are suffering from it. So this is how the application looks like. The main page has three tabs. The first one is the testing tab, from which you can start a guided FAST test and test somebody else, which will simply guide you through the steps and tell you the results of what's the probability of that person having a stroke. There's also test yourself, which administers your self-test using the camera, microphone, and gyroscope to detect signs of stroke. Then we have the next panel is the map tab, which will show you on the map what are the locations from which you can receive stroke treatment, since not all hospitals and all clinics have the necessary equipment and medicine and specialized doctors which are able to diagnose and treat you. So this is important to have some level of awareness of the medical infrastructure in your city or your region, to know how far away you are from such a facility, how much time it would require for you to reach there or have emergency services reach you. Next, we have the information tab, which simply presents information regarding stroke symptoms, so people educate themselves about it, know what to look out for, know the severity of it, so they realize how important it is to act fast and take themselves or the person they're trying to assist to a hospital. It also presents you information about the FAST test, to know how it works, to know what to look out for, what exactly you could ask that person to do to see if they are suffering from those symptoms. So when you install the application, we firstly require the user to do initial setup, which requires the user to do a self-test, FAST test, in order to calibrate our algorithms. So, for example, if your natural state, your face, for example, your face has a natural asymmetry to it, so it might look like you have some face drooping, but in reality, that's simply how your face is in your natural state. We don't want to create false positives and create unwarranted pressure on the medical system. So we want to reduce false positives as much as possible. So this is why we do an initial FAST test in order to calibrate our algorithms to further reduce false positives. In this section, you are also instructed to fill out some basic information such as your age, weight, height, smoking habits, stroke history, and so on, in order to more accurately detect the probability you are suffering from a stroke. Furthermore, you can also designate emergency contacts here. These contacts will be contacted in case you are suffering from a stroke, and in order to tell them, hey, I'm suffering from a stroke, come help me, I'm at this location, and so on. And the tests themselves, this is the first one. This is when you are testing somebody else. It's simply a guided FAST test, which takes you through the steps. Firstly, tells you how you can detect face drooping. It tells you to ask that person to smile and see how they react. Same with arm weakness and speech. And we also ask the person to identify any other symptoms they are noticing, such as dizziness, confusion, vomiting, loss of vision. This is again in order to improve the JAS score accuracy. But more interestingly is the self-testing, which uses artificial intelligence to detect the signs of stroke. The first part being the face detection, face analysis. We use the included API in all Android devices, which can give you the landmarks of your face, such as right corner, right mouth corner, left mouth corner, tip of the nose, base of the nose, or the contour of your eyes. And use these points in order to calculate an asymmetry score. So for example, we will look at the angles between your mouth and nose, the corner of your mouth, the corners of your mouth to your nose to see how the symmetry is in that part of your face, and also your lower eyelids in both of your eyes to see if they are similar or if there's some asymmetry taking place there. To more clearly show this example, we have in the left side a person in their normal state, not suffering from a stroke. And we can see that, for example, the angle BLT and BRT are mostly similar. So we can say that that's their normal face symmetry. The same with their eyelids. We can look at the lower eyelids and see that both eyes are mostly at the same level. When we look at the right side, when the person is suffering from facial palsy, the angle BLT shrinks, and they're no longer comparable with the other one. We can see an asymmetry taking place, and when we compare it to the normal state, it's clear that something has gone wrong there. The same with the lower eyelids. We see that the part of the face which is dropping, the lower eyelid is also going down with it and isn't at the same level as the left side, which has the muscle contracted. This way we look at both the lower part of your face and the upper part of the face to see if an asymmetry occurred compared to your normal state. Next is the arm weakness test, which we separated into two steps. First, arm strength, and then dexterity, finger dexterity. The arm strength is a test which looks at if you are able to lift up your arms in front of you. So we ask the user to hold their phone with both their hands. We do this by telling them to press the left and right button at the same time, requiring them to use both their hands, and then stretching out their arms in front of them. These instructions are verbal. In case the person is suffering from loss of vision, then this is so they can follow the test regardless. So they will stretch out their arms in front of them and will calculate the distance from the camera to their face. This algorithm uses the distance between the eyes and the nose in order to approximate the distance from the phone to the person's face. This way we're able to see if they're able to stretch out their arms when they're taking the test, the same distance when they took the test initially in the setup phase. We also ask them users to lift their arms above their head, and again we measure the distance in order to make sure that they're able to sustainably keep their hands stretched out. If one of their arms is suffering from strength loss, they won't be able to lift both their hands in front of them, and we'll see a shorter distance compared to their normal state. Then there's the dexterity test, which simply uses a very common phone unlocking test. We simply show the user a pattern and ask them to repeat it with their finger. This is simple, and people usually already know of this kind of test, and this is why we chose it. Next, we have the speech test, which we simply prompt the user with a phrase they have to repeat. The phrase has to be something simple. In this case, the sky is blue. We calculate the average confidence that the user said the target words. So to do this, the Android API usually already offers a speech recognition algorithm, and the algorithm will tell us the confidence in which the user said a specific word. For example, when I say the sky is blue, the algorithm will tell me with high confidence that I said the sky is blue. Each word in particular has an associated confidence score. So we average that out and compare it to how you usually say those words. So for example, if you have a very thick accent or have difficulty speaking in general, the algorithm will have the same amount of confidence in the way you speak in your setup test as well as in the actual test. And if the difference between the confidences is greater than 0.2 or 20%, we'll consider that you are having difficulty speaking. Finally, there's the T from the F.A.S.T test, which is time. At the end of the test, you'll be prompted with the result. This is both for self-testing and testing somebody else. The results can be either low risk of stroke, medium risk of stroke, or high risk of stroke. In all of these, we show the user a map, which they can click on, and they'll be directed to the Google Maps application with a path already set to the closest clinic near them. If they're suffering, if we calculate that the user is at medium risk or high risk of stroke, we'll also prompt them with information regarding, hey, go and contact emergency services, check out if you with a doctor immediately, and if they press the button, the phone will call 112 for them. Also, to calculate these tests, these probabilities, we use the JAS score, which normally uses 21 variables in order to identify the probability of someone having a stroke, and it can even tell you which type of stroke is most likely that has occurred. We're more interested in any stroke in this scenario, since the end user isn't necessarily interested in which type of stroke they're suffering from. That's the information which is more interesting to the doctors, and they'll test it themselves. Our application doesn't use all 21 variables. It uses about around 10 of them, so it's an only approximation of the JAS score. But we use the research proposed in the JAS score work in order to approximate the probability the user is suffering from a stroke. So we assignated that if the user has a JAS score of 0 or below, that they are low risk of have suffered a stroke. If they have a score of 1, we classify it as medium risk, and anything above that, we consider it high risk of stroke. So even if it's just an approximation, it still at least uses some of the widely used variables in the score. And to complete the application, we developed some functionalities around these results, such as sending text messages to the contact information, to the contact person, the emergency contact person, or people. The message will include information such as a Google Maps link to your current location, so that person can come and help you out in case you aren't able to move yourself to a nearby clinic, or you aren't able to contact emergency services since you're having difficulty speaking or using the phone. Also, the message will include the time the symptoms occurred. This is important because doctors might use different types of treatments depending on how much time has passed since the symptoms first occurred. So, for example, if only 2 hours passed from the occurrence of symptoms, they might use one treatment. If more time has passed, they might use a different, more aggressive treatment, and so on. Similar to this is why we also make the application put a sticky notification, which can be removed easily. The notification will include, again, the time the stroke occurred, so detected stroke at such and such hour, and even our approximated JAS scores. The idea behind this notification is that if the patient reaches the hospital and the doctor sees the phone, he can see the notification without unlocking the phone, and can see that, hey, we detected the signs of stroke at such and such hour. Here's our approximated JAS scores. This can be useful for some doctors which might receive patients which don't know when they're or can't communicate to tell them when the symptoms first occurred, and this way they can find out. So this was the presentation and our current status of the work with this application. In the future, we want to collaborate with medical professionals to test this application in real time with actual patients in order to further get feedback from them, adjust various thresholds for different tests, and also improve upon it in various ways. And in case the feedback is positive from this interaction, we want to further include this application in a wider pipeline for stroke treatment, in the sense that if you take a test, you are detected to being a high risk of a stroke and you contact emergency services, we want to also contact the actual hospital you are being transported to in order to announce them, hey, you have a patient en route which is suspect of having suffered a stroke. Prepare a hospital bed for him, prepare the CT scanner for him, or prepare the necessary medicine for treatment. This is the further work we plan on on developing. So this was the presentation. I hope you found it interesting, and have a nice day.